Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about superpowers. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, if you had a software engineering superpower, what would it be? The power of persuasion, I think. Although that might not be a superpower for software development, but let me explain it to you a little bit. So one of the things that I find to be most frustrating in my job these days is, well, it's not just these days, it's been this way for quite some time. So when I started as a software developer, the most important thing for me, of course, was to learn how to code and to write software in accordance with all the best practices and things like that. And as I've said in other videos, guys, that's sort of common. The thing that you're usually not so aware of is that there's quite a range of good practices or best practices out there, and everybody more or less, with a little bit of, well, there are some things that are more common than others, but in many cases there is a bit of wiggle room of which one is the best practice. Are you going to be dry, or are you going to use coupling, solid? Like what are the definitions of these things? And everybody does a little bit of interpretation for themselves. And so more often than you probably suspect, you will find yourself in situations where there is no clear-cut objective way of agreeing on a best practice or a certain way of doing something. This is why I tell people that soft skills is basically the main thing that determines how well you do in pull requests and things like that when you're like in a code review. Because basically what it comes down to is that you write software and then people have a comment or some idea of what is a good practice, what is a bad practice, and they will put a comment on your code. Now if you're lucky, you will figure out that this person is absolutely correct. If you are unlucky, the person is incorrect or probably not thinking in the way that you would like to. Like you basically have a difference of opinion on what's going to be the right way forward. And here comes the superpower. How do you get them to allow you to do the thing you want? Your coding isn't going to help you there. And that's what I tell people all the time. Every single time I have a conversation with a software manager, like with an engineering manager or software, comes to me and says, we have all these bugs and there's a lot of regressions and stuff like that. Can you fix it? And I go, absolutely. And then as I've said in other videos, I do my shovel trick, which is basically go and sit down in the sandbox with all the other kids and look at all the kids working with working on their different sandcastles, and then you pick a shovel, like just a tiny toy or something like that in the play pit, and just move a toy somewhere and let's see what happens. And if you are lucky, as I said, then everybody's fine. Yeah, the toy just moved. If you're unlucky, they're going to throw a fit over it. And so I go back to the manager. I'm sorry, can't help you. And they go, why? Well, because the people these kindergarten level software developers won't try anything else. Like they're not okay with changing anything about how they do things, yet the results that you are looking for are not coming from these people. Because sadly, as you probably know, guys, there are very varying levels of talent in anything. It doesn't matter if it's software or anything else, and everybody has their own opinion, and they're entitled to it. And unless you have authority or some way to persuade them to see things your way, you're gonna have to deal with them somehow. Now, in politics, you vote, and sometimes you start wars. In a software team, well, if you're lucky, you can vote about it. If you're also lucky, your manager will listen to you and use their authority to force things. Or it's in my case, which happens very often, the manager doesn't feel comfortable having an opinion and therefore nothing happens. And then either you get upset or angry, or like you have all these battles back and forth, and you still are not going to see eye to eye on the thing that you are discussing. And as you can imagine, this is a constant struggle. You know, all those times when people contact me about, oh yeah, we never get any capacity to refactor, we don't have time to write tests, we don't have A, B, and C, like all those things. All of them, more or less, comes down to you need to have somebody else somebody else's buy-in on the thing you want to do, because they are not agreeing with whatever, like they don't feel like the thing that you think is important. And that's why the one superpower that I wish for would have been persuasion. Because if I can, because it basically comes down to that. Imagine like if you think it's hard to get someone to consider using one of your libraries, or allowing you to write a test or like something in the code in a certain way. Imagine how it is to try to convince an entire organization to do something, anything whatsoever, that is different from the thing that they already are doing. That is the stuff that I have to deal with these days. I have to go into product teams where literally every single number is going in the wrong direction. Bugs are going up, developer happiness is going down, the like latencies and all these things. Like everything is literally shit according to everybody I speak to. But as soon as I get to talk to the tech lead, any change to anything is bad. And so what do? Because the tech lead in that specific team apparently has final say, which of course I question. I say, why is it that this person can, I go to the managers, I go to the stakeholders, I go to everybody else, and I say, how is it that you are all unhappy with the situation, yet nobody's willing to ask this person to step away from the controls for a while so we can try something else? And in those situations, that is the superpower you're going to need. Your coding is not going to help you here. You could be the best engineer in the world, and that conversation will not be fixed by how well you write your unit test or how many design patterns you know or anything like that. The superpower necessary there is to get people to listen to you and actually allow, like, to get the buy-in, basically. So what I want you to take away from this is that if I only had one software engineering superpower, maybe it's bigger than that, I would say persuasion, the power of getting the buy-in, the power to persuade people to let me do my job. And right now, the only way I find, the way I usually do it is very simple. I'm trying to practice to get this superpower. I might need to roll around in some nuclear waste somewhere to maybe enhance it, but I'm trying my best to work on it. Incidentally, you might have figured out that my little talks here, hopefully with a bit of practice, will help my oration, or like my rhetoric and my ability to express myself, and maybe I'll get better at it, and so forth. Because I sure as hell need this now more, at least this in this stage of my career. I need this more than I need to continuously practice on my unit testing or my design patterns or things like that. Those things can absolutely be improved, but I've found in recent years that this is, at least in the roles I have now, is becoming increasingly important to me, because I have the technical skills to, as I like to say, solve problems. Like I know how to set things up so that you don't have a lot of bugs and that you don't miss your deadlines and that the teams are working in the safest way according to best practices and all this stuff. I've made those investments that took me years to learn those things, and so those days, like that work I've already put in. I never fully learn, like I wouldn't claim that I know everything, but I know enough to feel fairly solid in that. But as I said, that is pointless if you're dealing with another engineer who doesn't care about what you believe or believe something different. And as I said, it doesn't matter if you can, in many cases, like we're supposed to be data driven, it doesn't matter if you can prove that this is incorrect. You have to make people feel things. And I am just so bad at that. I cannot, no matter how many graphs I show people showing that, yeah, this is not going good, this is not going good, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, people do not respond as well to data and facts as they do to emotions. And if you have the wrong engineer, or the wrong boss in the wrong place, all your coding is pointless. And so these days, I find more and more that actually this is all I can do right now. And my manager asks, like, what? You haven't done anything. No, exactly. I can do absolutely nothing until you get that person to agree with me, or they come up with an idea of their own, which of course is not a given. Have a great day.